I'm happy to bring into the program Patrick Cooper of Sadik and Cooper. Patrick's specialty is family law, and let's get right to it. Pat, what are the biggest issues that you're seeing on the family law side of things during this pandemic?
Joe, what we're seeing is a lot of issues that are coming up, and I think that they're not being solved as quickly as people might like them to be because all of the county courts are closed. So Philadelphia County is closed, Montgomery County is closed, Delaware County is closed, Bucks County is closed. And so if you have a child custody dispute, you may have a support issue. And the reason why these are coming up even more than normal at a time when the courts really aren't able to dispose of them. Let's say, for example, that Frank mentioned earlier on the show about first responders. Of course, we appreciate everything that they're doing out there. But you might have a first responder, let's say a firefighter or an EMT, or somebody who works in a hospital who has a child custody order where they're supposed to have their child with them certain nights of the week. And because maybe the other parent has a concern that either there's going to be an infection or that the child could become ill, or maybe there's an elderly relative living in one parent's home, they decide that unilaterally they don't want to follow the order anymore, and they think they're going to make that decision. And so I've had a lot of my clients calling me with these issues really on a daily basis ever since it was about St. Patrick's Day. We've been getting these calls every day. And I might have a client who's a firefighter who has their ex-wife is saying, too bad, the kids are going to stay with me until this all blows over. Well, it's been a month now, guys. So you can imagine how that might feel. You're out there putting your life on the line just to try to see your kids under your court order that's already been agreed upon, already been signed by a judge. And the issue is you may not be able to, go in and file a motion for contempt. It's frustrating for a lot of them. It's scary. It's frustrating. And the children themselves sometimes don't know necessarily what to expect.
Sure, and having said that, if somebody's an essential worker out there on the front lines working in part of one of Frank's crews, you can understand both sides of the equation, and at the same time, it's got to be painful. What about child support or alimony payments?
Well, those are the other major issues that are coming up right now, because you might have someone who is used to making a certain amount of money. The amount of money that they pay to support either their child or a former spouse, sometimes even a current spouse, the amount of money that they're ordered to pay through the courts, and the amount of money that's directed to come from their paycheck every pay period is set based on the amount of money that they were making before all this. And there has not been time for anyone to adjust that yet. Okay, so what we're seeing is people are unable to make the payments that they are obligated to make. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they absolutely can't right now. A lot of the union guys I know and women are still able to be working. A lot of them don't have a choice, and they have to work sometimes more than they normally would. But I know that there are other trades that have been really shut down. I mean, there's been a lot less construction, obviously. Food workers are really not getting hours like they should. And so it's creating a lot of problems. So, one thing that I'm advising my clients is you don't know when this is going to get back to normal. So the first thing that I tell them is if you've seen a decrease in your income, you need to file a support modification. And that's something that we can do for you. That's one of the few things that we're able to do through the courts right now, because the courts have had to limit what they're able to handle. They've limited to mostly to child custody emergencies, protection from abuse emergencies, things like that. And because there is electronic filing, we are able to file a petition to modify support. Now, that's not going to help you today, but what it will do is it will preserve the retroactive date when your order ultimately gets adjusted. So let's say, for example, we finally get to court in June on something like that. So the court's not going to hold you responsible for your full salary for the time period between when we filed the modification petition and when you actually get into court. So they'll adjust it over the course of time. Now, like I said, that doesn't necessarily help the recipient or the single mom who's relying on that money coming in from the other parent. But it's just a very challenging time, and I know that Frank alluded to that as well, and you guys know it. You see it in your own lives. You see it in the people that you speak with on a daily basis. It's just really challenging all around. So we're doing our best to be able to give people the best advice possible. in this unusual situation.
Patrick Cooper joining us here along with Brad Sadek and Cooper. Patrick, as you mentioned or as you referenced there, I'm an employee. Support's coming out of my check. I'm now unemployed. The support is supposed to continue to be paid. I could quickly find myself in arrears 8 to 12 weeks and then find myself with other legal ramifications from that, just by the mere nature of the relationship perhaps that I have or don't have with my ex.
Well, that's right. And in some cases, my client calls me, I call their spouse or their ex or the other parent's attorney, and we're able to work something out on a temporary basis. Even if there's no attorney on the other side, sometimes we can work something out on a temporary basis because some people do understand. Unfortunately, some people don't understand on the other side.
But Pat, let me jump in. Are the courts, do you expect their leniency during these times? I mean, obviously, people are losing jobs, or they're working less, or they're working on the front lines. On both sides, do you expect leniency?
I do expect that. I think that once we get back into court and all of the dust is settling, so to speak, I think that there's going to have to be that. There's going to have to be, we mentioned child custody disputes earlier, and you said you could see both sides of the argument, right? So what I'm thinking is, people are making judgment calls right now that I'm going to keep my child safe, or I'm going to do this or do that. I may not follow a court order. And if my client's the one who's not being allowed to see their child, I may be filing a contempt petition. I may be trying to hold them accountable once things start moving again. And they're going to say, look, I'm going to take my chances on that, and I'm going to hope that I can explain to the judge that I was doing the right thing in my mind. So you may have that argument, but you're also going to certainly have this dollars and cents argument about, your income is not what it was, and that's no fault of your own. And so I do think that you're going to see that come into play.
Pat, what about divorce cases? How's the closure of the courts impacting those cases?
Well, you're not going to be getting a final divorce decree while the family court is closed, but it does not stop you from taking some of the most important steps in a divorce case. And you guys joked at the beginning about there's either going to be a lot of babies or a lot of divorces. And I'll be honest, I expect that there's going to be a lot of both, and sometimes for the same people even. So, with you,
I really wasn't joking, by the way. I was only half joking, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to probably be all the way correct when time tells the whole story. So, what I'm telling my clients right now is it's become more clear to some of them than ever that they need to take this step and use this time right now to be consulting with your attorney, to be finding out what you need to know, what you need to pull together as far as documentation, organizing, planning. You can also consider options that, you may not have considered a few months ago, and one of those would be divorce mediation. Okay, divorce mediation sometimes can save people a lot of time, a lot of money, and you can do it without having to rely on the courts and the courts' timelines. So that's another service that we offer, and I think it's a very great option depending on your situation. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, then of course you can go the traditional divorce route, and in that case, you're going to need an attorney, and you're going to need an attorney that you trust. So there's no time like the present to begin that relationship.
And of course, family law, getting information. There's a lot of stressed people out there. So I want to thank Pat for doing what they're doing, and keep up the good work. We got to have a part two of this as soon as possible.